Hey everybody, got a cornering feels a bit weird right now. I have a large amount of boxes with me because I've got to go to the post office. But it's a perfect opportunity to talk about. It's a subject I did talk about years and years and years ago, and I thought I'd do a video sort of with my thoughts since then. Especially as I've started my own little business and I've gone full time with YouTube, my needs have changed somewhat. And of course I'm talking about, as you know from the title, living with just a bike. Is it doable? This is by no means the most amount of clocks I've ever taken with me. I've only got 2 with me at the moment. I think I've taken 5 or 6 at once before now. Just covering the addresses up. Yeah, this is 2 commission clocks I've just finished. If you want a clock made out of your sprocket or disc, get in contact. But yeah, a single strap has got these held down. So by just using one little strap and my backpack, I've been able to take this lot to the post office, no problems. And I don't have a ton of extra equipment with me to have done it. Anyway, let me send these calendars and clocks off. Yeah, with little aids of things like these cheap straps, you can actually get a fair amount on a bike. So for me, with a few pieces of luggage, a few straps, some quick thinking at times, which normally includes duct tape, I've been able to survive no problem. There is only one regular occurrence where I have a problem only having a bike, and that is getting gas for my TIG welder, because I can't take an argon gas bottle on this bike. It's impractical and wouldn't be safe. I probably could do it if I sort of strapped it to myself and had it sat on the back seat like a pillion, but yeah, as you can tell, that doesn't sound like a good idea, does it? So in those instances, it actually comes down that I do need to find a mate with a car who can give me a lift, because otherwise I'm a bit stuck. But that is not the most common problem for everyone. I think probably the most common problem is shopping and food and stuff like that. And I think if you have kids, if there's a few of you that live in one place and you do one weekly shop, I do think you are going to struggle with a bike. It depends what sort of bike it is. You know, if you've got a big bike, like a GS 1200, and it's got massive panniers and stuff on it, yeah, you probably could get a week shopping in that without too much trouble. But when it comes to larger items, there is a limit as to what you can do. I've solved that problem by just not buying stuff big from shops, so I buy online if I need to and have it delivered. Which is actually something I think a lot of us do these days. You know, back in the day of using Argos and stuff like that and coming back with giant pieces of flat pack furniture that you got to try and fit, you know, in a car, I think those days are pretty gone. Not put my feet down. Ah! It's funny I've hit this traffic like this. You see, this is part of the reason why a bike for me is, it's worth the grief. I live on a small island, and even in, this is now nearly winter, traffic in the middle of, I mean, it's 11 o'clock, most people should be at work, right? If I didn't have a bike, I would spend hours trying to get on and off this island. This is where my love of filtering came from. All because they are trimming a bush. It's only got 2 wheels on the road and it's completely shut the place down. There is other sides to it, like some people just, they don't want to get cold and wet in the winter. They want to be able to have a car, be warmer and drier and possibly safer. Maybe for me, just because I've always ridden, because I didn't really have the choice to get a car, I've just adapted and found ways to do it. But equally, I don't like cars. I appreciate them as tools, but I don't see them as anything more than that, really. I mean, okay, I'm talking about just normal cars here, not exotics and stuff. But generally, to me, a four-wheeled vehicle would be a tool. It would be like a van. See, that's the thing. If I was to have 4 wheels of some sort, I wouldn't have a little car or a hatchback or something. I'd just get a van. It's dry, you can get around in it, and you can fit stuff in the back, and that's the only reason I'd really want to get a 4-wheeled vehicle, is for storage, to be able to transport more stuff. So you might as well go for something that's going to do that job to the best. Today feels like the coldest day I've felt in a while, and it's bringing back the memories of the winter, and I admit that the dark dingy, grey, wet coldness of the winter, it's not very pleasant on a bike. But when you get clear days like this, it's lovely. I think the other big advantage in my favour is I work from home. So unless I have a meeting with someone or something very important is happening on a day, I don't actually have to get out on the bike. I can be like, alright, it's a rainy, stormy, horrible day. Today's not a good day to be on the bike. Let's readjust our plans and go when it's nicer. But as I say, there are times that I have to just go with it, and then it's just put on as many layers as you can, get on some nice warm gear, whack a rain suit over the top of it and deal with it. You've got to take the rough with the smooth, and in ways I kind of like having to suffer a bit in the winter because it makes the summer so much more pleasant. You know, when you're riding in the winter, you long for the summer and you're like, oh, the warmth. I remember the first days of spring when you didn't feel cold and you can take your neck scarf off and stuff like that. Well, what I do is try and do the opposite. I think about how horrible it is during the winter when it's in the summer, and I really start to enjoy the ride so much more when I just start realising like there is warm air wafting over me. I can smell flowers and stuff, the roads are warm, the grip's good. You could be having a terrible day, and if you just start thinking about that, it just makes me happy in the summer. It's like, oh yeah, of course. A little bit of hard work and suffering is good for the soul, I think. Like me, and for many of you, I think it will simply come down to cost, that getting a car is very, very expensive. And as much as people like to try and point out how expensive the motorcycle licenses are, and they are, depending on what level you have to go through, you know, how many stages you have to go through, I still think getting a car, it ends up being a lot more expensive when you counter in how much you pay for lessons, which is not something you really do so much with motorcycles. You know, you can do your mod training in just a couple of days if you've taken the time to learn on a CBT. That's the thing with the CBTs, the benefit of it is you get to do all that training on your own without having to pay someone to drive you around, well, sorry, for you to drive them around and learn to drive a car. And insurance on cars, I think, is considerably more. You see some 17-year-olds saying, you know, it's costing me £1,000 to insure my 125. It doesn't seem right. It's like, well, yeah, it's not great, but I think you're always going to pay more than that on insurance in a car. So as I say, for a lot of people, it comes down to, it's not choice. It's, you just make do with what you have. And for me, getting a bike was the only option I had at the time. It turned a pre-existing ember of enjoyment of motorcycles into a raging inferno. And now I can't see myself going any other way. Me and Reno, my other half, we've discussed sort of like cars in the past. Like, are we ever going to get one? It's like, well, it would make sense at some point that we would. But it would most likely be her that's going to do it because, well, she's actually done a fair bit more driving training than I have. I can drive a car. But I have very little ambition to learn. Although, what I will say is I probably should have just got my licence anyway, even if I wasn't planning to get a car, because it would open up a lot more job opportunities. And that is something that does stick in my mind. I'm like, maybe I should do my car licence just so I can drive for a company. But I'm not sure whether a company will want to employ someone, a new first-time driver, as it were, who doesn't own their own car. Maybe they don't think about it like that. Maybe they're like, well, it's driving, anyone can do it. Another side to it, I suppose, is maybe something that car drivers don't consider is that motorcycles don't pay for parking pretty much ever. And we can park pretty much anywhere we want, within reason. You know, pay and display car parks, they don't charge you, it's free. So my opinion is, yes, you can survive without a car. There is a lot of things you may think you can't do on a bike. You can. But it takes a bit of effort, it takes some ingenuity, as I say, and sometimes it takes a mate with a car. But I think, as I say, it's so different from each person's perspective as to what you need to do. I mean, if you're a plumber, no, I'm sorry, you're probably not going to do your job from a motorcycle. But if you're, I don't know, an IT engineer and you just carry a laptop and a small bag, you would probably be better on a bike because you could get to places sooner. You know, if you're one of these people that has to go from site to site to fix problems fast, you being on a bike means you get there way faster and gives you a competitive edge in the market if you were self-employed. So there are big pros and cons from each direction, and it's such a unique combination of things that makes it an absolute yes or an absolute no for you. Forgetting the like, oh, I don't want to get cold in the middle bit, it's a difficult question to answer, and it's individuals that can make that decision. But I guess what I'm trying to say here is, don't think that you can't cope with it, and understand that, yeah, to ride all year round you do have to suffer a little bit, but it's not that bad. If you get the right gear, if I had to commute every single day, as I say, because working from home is a huge benefit to me, if I had to commute every single day and it was winter, I would just have some waterproof boots, a two-piece Gore-Tex type, textile, warm, dry suit type thing, get some good waterproof warm gloves, neck scarf, and just deal with it. Obviously, then getting to work means you do have to get changed, and there is that extra time. And I have to admit that, yes, it can be annoying when you have to get to work and take all your gear off to then just put all your gear back on at the end of the day and blah, blah, blah. And if you do a split shift, that gets even more annoying because it's take all your gear off, put your all gear on, go home or whatever you do on your split shift break. And then put all your gear back on and then take it all, it can get a little tiresome. So I can see why some people would choose to get a car just for ease. Just for, I just want to go to work and just walk straight in the door. I'm sure many of you will have some input as to things that I haven't thought of, or angles and directions of this which are unique to you but are worth mentioning because other people might come across the same problem. So yeah, leave your comments, say what you think, leave a like if you found it interesting, subscribe to the channel. I'm on my way to 100k. Huge thanks to my patron supporters who went up your screen earlier, and I will catch you all next time. Bye bye. If you enjoyed this video and the other content on the channel, please consider following the links in the description to show your support.